and brick and mortar and energy. Then came COVID, and of course, we saw that world went into state of inertia, rightly, and of course, China's policy, zero COVID policy. So the progress was almost stale. But the CPEC phase 2, one of the important components which is starting now, is agriculture and food security. So it's again the green initiative. So when one talks of agriculture, when one talks of food security, when one talks of, for example, the experiments that were on producing rice crop in saline water conditions in Sindh. So China, they provided certain rice seed varieties which actually can be grown in the saline and sodic conditions. So the waterlogged soils in Sindh and part of, and that is again greening the nature, greening the environment through use of nature. Energy, of course, is another one, and it's quite heartening to know that both government of Pakistan as well as President Xi have announced that they would not sponsor any coal-based power project outside China. Government of Pakistan has put a cap on number of coal-based power plants in Pakistan, and that is the moment one need to focus upon the renewable sources, both hydel as well as solar. And then in concluding, I would say that when you talk of energy, green energy, there are more than one more than one factors and that green energy would be promoted. But I think the IMF current negotiation and the program, that would be a major turning point that people they would start resorting to green energy resources, because the energy economics would become so complicated and the fossil fuel energy would become so expensive that the consumers who can afford, they would start switching to renewable and alternative sources of energy. So we have seen that economics, when it pinch economically, that is actually the greatest catalyst for any change. And now we have reached to a point that we still need to increase around 3 rupees per unit as a fuel surcharge before this draft level agreement is reached. Pakistan has already taken this decision in principle that in summer the reliance on furnace oil for production of electricity would be reduced. So I can see consumer shift solar, and I can see government shifting to non-fossil fuel solution, which is hydel, and already the
Hello, bro.
the diversion of river Sindh, that Dasu dam, I think that is a major breakthrough that we are able to now materialize on what we have been dreaming of, this Dasu dam construction and then production of electricity from it. So government of Pakistan is committed to NDC, National Determined Contribution, that by 2050, 60% of our energy mix would be through renewable resources. And I can see some of the investment from China being a major component of it. So ladies and gentlemen, of course, there are more than these avenues which I discussed. Electrical vehicle is still another, and there are various other solutions. The recommendations of this forum, as Mustafa rightly said, would be prepared, compiled, and would be shared to the decision makers, both in China as well as in Pakistan. And we look forward to learning from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. In fact, I just returned last night from China, and you spoke about electric vehicles. And then in Shenzhen, I saw that 80% of the vehicles now are electric vehicles. The fossil fuel vehicles with petrol and other fuel are no longer being used at all. And now they are going to be using the Shenzhen model for electric vehicles in all the other major cities, and they are giving incentives for that. And we are seeing charging stations, electric charging stations for the EVs everywhere. And some of those electric vehicles are like cell phones, they can be charged at home. So I think there's a lot that can be done. I'd like to now invite Senator Mushad Hussain, Chairman of the Pakistan China Institute, for his keynote address.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, and our Chinese friends. And also a very happy new year of the rabbit, because the rabbit also shows good fortune and speed. And
Bald ass nigga.
that speed will be reflected, especially in 2023 in Pakistan-China relations, and the basis of the current relationship, the framework is the China-Pakistan economic corridor, as well as the broader China-Pakistan relationship, which is now multifaceted and multidimensional. I'm very happy to note that my distinguished colleague is here, Senator Rukhsana Zubairi. She has been president of the Pakistan Engineering Council, engineer also, and was a very close confidant of Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto Shahid Sahiba in the old days. And Dr. Abid Suleri is in the vanguard of the green development in Pakistan as head of the Sustainable Development Policy Institute, which is the oldest and the most well-established policy institute on sustainable development. And that is an issue for which the time has now come. When we come to talk of China, I remember that I went to China in May 2019 to attend the second Belt and Road Forum, BRF, hosted by President Xi Jinping. And the theme of that forum, and Pakistan's
I'm about to come.
Pakistan's Prime Minister was there. Is there a technical issue we can have? Yeah? We can work it out. There was about 40 heads of state there, and Pakistan was one of them. And the theme was towards green development. That was the first time we saw that at such a high level international conference attended by leaders from Europe, leaders from Asia, Middle East, Latin America, Africa, the focus was very clear. And today, as we speak, 2023, green is the defining element of China's development. And two important frameworks are important to understand in this context. One is that in January, the State Council of China issued a white paper. And the white paper focused on green development. That this is the policy framework, and this is what it is going to be focused on. And then earlier than that, in 2019, the Chinese Ministry of Energy and Environment had also issued guidelines for green development. And there were specific areas on renewable energy, what Mustafa mentioned about electric vehicles, the switch from fossil fuels to green and clean energy, and that had begun. And President Xi Jinping had made this commitment also at the COP in 2015 in Paris, where he said that China would take this element forward, carbon neutrality by 2060, and also China would emerge as a global leader in green development. That commitment, which was made to the international community in 2015, has been kept. And today you can see China is the largest producer and investor in green development. So whether the shift to renewables is there, solar, wind, hydro, even nuclear energy, and then also in terms of technology. And in technology, it's all about green technology and also green finance. And China today has created 54 million, what they call green jobs, including 4 million in renewables. So already the figures speak for themselves. And this, I think, is an important element, that it's not just from top down, it's also bottom up, because the instructions have gone down. The local governments in China at the county level, below the city and the provincial level, they're also focusing on that. So this is a huge transformation. So China is the leader in globalization. 30% of global growth is fueled by China. And China is also the leader in green development technology. I was recently reading, ladies and gentlemen, a very interesting report by Harvard University. And it was issued by the Belfer Center. I think it was issued last year. And that report is called The Great Tech Rivalry, China versus the United States. This is the title. It's 52 pages, and you can see it in the internet. The Great Tech Rivalry, China versus the United States. And what is the report saying? And this is Harvard University, Professor Graham Allison. They say that China has overtaken the United States in high-tech manufacturing. And they mentioned 1.5 billion cell phones produced last year, 250 million computers, 25 million automobiles. So that is there. But in the foundational technologies of 21st century, artificial intelligence, robotics, cloud computing, 5G, China, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, China is either at par or it is overtaking the United States. And this is the report from the US top institution. And in that, under the direction of the Communist Party of China and President Xi Jinping, the technology is to focus on clean and green energy. That is the linkage. Economic development, focusing on green development, and technology that produces cleanliness. And Dr. Abid Suleri was very right. When we used to visit Beijing in 20 years ago, there was darkness, almost smog all over, permanently over Beijing, which has changed. And that has been there. And if you saw the technology, if you saw the television in February 2023, when China had the Winter Olympics, 80% of the Winter Olympics logistics, transportation was green energy and controlled with technology. Robots were guiding you where to go, where to sit, what to do. So this was the element, highest level, last February 2022. So this is an amazing transformation. And I think that countries like Pakistan need to learn from that. Oh, and why Pakistan? Because Pakistan is also itself affected by the issue of climate change, as was mentioned. We have had in the last 20 years over 150 freak weather incidents in Pakistan, whether it's flash floods or forest fires or avalanches or other kinds of strange weather emerging. And I remember in 2014, Dr. Abid Suleri sir, I organized the first briefing, public hearing on climate change and environment in the Pakistan Parliament. And that time it was not that fashionable because I said I was heading a committee for clean and green Islamabad. And we had 3 days of public hearing. For the first time, we also produced a media manual on climate change. And it was not easy even to acclimatize my fellow parliamentarians. Of course, present company excluded, Engineer Zubairi Saab has been already in the vanguard, but most of them had no awareness and no linkage of the larger issue of climate change with the condition in Pakistan, which was aptly demonstrated last year at the floods, when 33 million people were affected, and people now realize it was the consequences of global climate change that countries like Pakistan are facing. And not just Pakistan, this region. South Asia. And you know that Nepal had a cabinet meeting high in the Himalayas because of melting glaciers. Maldives had a meeting underwater because global warming continues at this pace. Maldives may cease to exist in the next 30, 40 years because it's an islands. So this issue is so paramount, and we are very grateful to China and its leadership for taking this initiative forward. Because in America, 30% of Americans are still climate change deniers, including President Trump. They say climate change is not an issue. Even the president of the World Bank says there is no climate change issue. And you know, Al Gore made a speech recently criticizing him on that this is everybody accepts this, science proves that, but you have deniers, that people in positions of authority who say there is no climate change issue. It's other issue related, because it's the lobby. The fossil fuels lobby is so powerful in the United States, and that they control this dirty energy lobby or whatever. So this is extremely important, and I think today's initiative is very much there, and we are having this conference with SDPI and Pakistan China Institute at the right time, because this year we are going to have COP28 in United Arab Emirates. I've been participating in the COP meetings, which is about climate change. COP26 was in Glasgow, and last year the COP was in Sharm el-Sheikh. Dr. Abel Sulerisa was there in both meetings, and he organized a special briefing for parliamentarians to educate them and make them aware of the issues. So I think that now that the COP is being held almost next door in United Arab Emirates, I would suggest to both Pakistan China Institute and the SDPI to prepare an action plan, and we should discuss it with our friends in the Gulf, whether it's the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia and Qatar and others who are very keen to promote this clean and green energy, because this is about the future of Pakistan's people, their lives and livelihoods. And we are very lucky we have a neighbor next door, that's China, which is a leader in climate change today. So given the leadership role of China, given the requirement of Pakistan, and given the fact that countries around Pakistan today, including the Gulf countries, have now that awareness of the need for green development, I think that we should seize the moment and take this initiative forward. And I look forward to hearing the report and other speeches. And I thank all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who have gathered here for this important conference. We have a very quality crowd of people who are professionals, think tank people, educated, and who have been policymakers and who understand the issues. And I think we have to take it forward. And we in the parliament, I'd like to assure you on my behalf and behalf of Senator Rukhsana Zubairi Saab also, that whatever legislation has to be passed, whatever policy making has to be done at the level of parliament, we should certainly pursue it with the urgency that this situation demands. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks.
Now I'd like to invite Senator Rukhsana Zubairi Saab for a speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and ni hao. The distinguished audience sitting here, professionals, my seniors. First of all, Mushair Saab and Qayyum Suleri Saab, it's a great initiative you have taken, and I had the opportunity of working with Senator Mushair Saab during my first tenure in the Senate also, which was in the 2003 and 6, and then we worked together in the Defense Committee. As we got invitation of this conference and I saw its title, I reached out to Mushair Saab in the house. We were having session, and I said, you are going to share lessons from China. I would like to share lessons from Pakistan. ये pictures अभी हमें नहीं चाहिए, ठीक है? The need to switch to a greener future. And yes, this is need of the time. And renewable energy and energy in PPP manifesto of 2007, of which I was also a member of it, energy was the core of the development. We called it 5E, and it was employment, education, then the center was energy, environment, and equality. So our party leadership, Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, she was a staunch believer that the energy we have to keep it as a core, and we have to work on it. And renewable was on the forefront. When I joined Pakistan Engineering Council in 2008, Chairman Saab, I shared it with you. We had a joint session going on. And as I came to joint session, my colleague who was senator and who was Minister Environment, he came to congratulate me. I said, only congratulation doesn't mean anything. So he says, well, we'll have a party. I said, yeah, a party with a difference. He said, what do you want? I said, get Engineering Council building energy audit, first of all. And he said, done. And next morning, the MD Enercon, Faridullah Saab, he just walked in and said, please help us because we don't have a budget for it this year that will delay us. So he said, no problem. And the energy audit was done by simple one small step. You rightly said the small steps lead to bigger steps. We saved 35% of electric light energy. We saved about 35% of the energy used, and a small step. And we didn't have to spend much. We just had to take off a couple of walls and the tinted papers we were using and things like that. Small and putting up LED lights. So small investments, and nothing big was involved. That led us to, we said we will have, we should have awareness. We should have awareness, and we should tell people that this is how we can save energy. And we should popularize use of renewable energy. Pakistan knows hydraulic energy for a long time, but solar is also not a new technology. It's an old technology, but it was slightly very expensive. With time, it has become very affordable now. And but the question is, we have to have awareness and we have to have energy audit so that we first of all make it energy efficient buildings and energy efficient environment to be able to spend less. Then we found this organization known as Women in Energy, and we conducted seminars and conferences and reaching out to people how they can reduce their energy bill. Energy bill is the core issue of every household. And then during this time, parliamentarians were asked to suggest electricity distribution proposals. So I went to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Yusuf Raza Gilani Saab, and I said, I'm not interested in taking distribution lines and putting money on the wires and putting money on the the piping of gas when we don't have gas. So he said, what do you want? I said, if you allow for solar, I'm ready to take interest and ready to put up a project there. So he agreed. And then we had very small units starting from for a very small hut, for a small home, 1 room living. We had from 40 watt to 5 kilowatt. And the the bigger units, we took it to, we can share the pictures now. We went to the mosques, we put in the mosque, we went to the churches. Panja Sahib Gurdwara has it. And with these activities of people started, watching us engineering council with interest that here some people are trying to do something. So JICA contacted us and they said they have full energy plan and we have qualified 52 countries, but they have money for about 20 plus countries. And we are coming to you because we think that you are ready to take up this project. But then there's but is always something different coming. So the but was that your approval processes take too long and you will miss out otherwise. So we said, okay, give us your timeline. So they gave us timeline and the most critical issue came up is with the planning commission approvals. So we said, okay, let's work it out. We'll get back to you. So I went to the planning commission chairman, Sardar Asif was the deputy chairman at that time. And I said, here it is, this is a project coming. We need your help. Okay, can we put it in my village? I said, no, sir. They are not coming for your village. They are not coming for love of Pakistan. They are coming to promote their products, to display their products. And so he said, okay. I said, okay, now what can I do is I can give you half the project. So that was the official, I presented. So we said, because this was all for Pakistan. So it said half in front of Pakistan Engineering Council building and half on planning commission parking lot. So there are two projects and that became the Pakistan's first on-grid system. Because then we started working with ISCO and ISCO was of the opinion that why should you take money from us? Because you are getting a free project, so it doesn't matter. We want people of Pakistan to invest their own money, get energy for themselves and get energy for others and make money out of it. We can have a quick rundown of the pictures I would like to share. And now Pakistan Engineering Council is there with the Act of Parliament. Okay. ये हमारा manifesto में था ये 5E. Okay, move on, please. Can you move on, please? Yeah. This was also there. Acha, this was Qaeda Azam's Mazar, 5 kilowatt. They are very intelligently using it. They are putting it in their museum because mostly the light is not there when dignitaries come, and the museum is lighted with it. Okay, next one. Please excuse us because we had to. This is a mosque. Bait al-Mukarram in Karachi. There are in fact 100 such sites were there. Next one, please. Next one. This is Bari Imam. Then you would see, yeah, please go ahead. Prime Minister's Secretariat, you will see very small units over there, just in front of the gate. And this is, and the Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto's Mazar also. The stage, at the back of the stage we have installed, and that works for the sound system and lights there. This was when the JICA came and we had the signing ceremony and it was the beginning of it. Next. This was our challenge to connect to the grid, connecting sun to the grid. Yeah. And this was site for Pakistan's first on-grid solar system. This was the location. It's just as you turn from Nadra towards PEC office, you will find and now this one is on the planning commission. Yeah, move. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, next. We are connected to the grid. Pakistan Engineering Council did help in formulating the protocols and things like that. And this was the inauguration, connecting it. And Prime Minister of Pakistan did it. This was net metering, which started. And these are the bills. Now, the basic issue now in spreading is because we are having credits of electricity. We're not having money being given in return. And this is NAPRA's recognition of our services. Our means my team as Pakistan Engineering Council. Okay, next. Now, here are the organizations. Both sides has given the Japanese organization, Pakistani organization, and Pakistani organization you can see Capital Development Authority also. Now, the role of Capital Development Authority came in. We'll move on to the picture, please. I would like to recognize here a role of Senator Nayyar Bukhari. He was leader of the opposition at that time, and he got us the place right in front of Engineering Council, and he used all his resources to get us that place because we wanted it to be visible and visible to all. Now, since installation, which was 2012, and about 2015, we had the NAPRA rules and how to connect it to the grid, how they will be paid and all that. So here is a number of licenses issued every year. And you can see that the number of licenses issued went on to an increase and then have started reducing. If you see the graph, it is not a very good situation. And this is the capacity. The capacity also, we have something like 606 megawatt energy added to national grid without a single penny being given by the government of Pakistan. It's the people's money. So this is perhaps. Let's go off. Now, I was thinking I'm left out with all this. Okay. Now, I would like to make a commitment here before this August gathering and before you, Mr. Chairman, that this is a national cause, and I, as an individual, as a parliamentarian, as a representative of Pakistan People's Party, and engineers and Engineering Council, which is by act of parliament is a think tank of government of Pakistan, will be available to you without any obligation on your side as a national duty. And we are here. And if you see today, what we are facing is the engineering problems, the electricity problem, the environment problem. All these are engineering problems, and we are thank you so much. Thank you. And we are a nuclear country. We have all the resources available. We have all the resources available, all the expertise available. One important missing link, which I want to present it to you, is we don't have engineers at the engineering jobs. What I mean is, you may find, thousands and thousands of them working, but grade 19, 20, 21, 22, they are missing. And they used to be, they are here also, but not now. So this missing link has to be bridged. We don't have engineers cadre. That has to be done. And awareness has to be done. And awareness campaign right from the university academic level, from the day one. I remember in our house, even a small child would not let any bulb be there lit without any use. They will just reach out to something, try and put it off. If they cannot even reach to the button, they'll use some way of reaching it out, because that is the environment which we have grown up. No waste. Waste is not there at all. So my commitment, I would congratulate all of you. I wish you a very successful event, and with all our efforts and participation, And congratulations for this step. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Saiba. I would now like to invite our friend, Mr. Christoph Nedofeld from the Fudan University to give his presentation on the status of green finance under CPEC and the BRI. This will be virtual as Christoph is in China.
Good morning, Mustafa. Good morning, dear colleagues. What a great pleasure to be here. And it was such a pleasure also to already listen to these excellent speeches, very, very inspiring. I'm actually currently in Germany, so it's very early in the morning, but it was absolutely worth getting up and hearing all this motivated and positive developments that CPEC and Pakistan is going through, and of course also strives to go through over the next years in collaboration with China, but of course also in collaboration with all the other relevant partners. Now let me share my screen. It's if that's possible. So the host has to allow me to share my screen so I can start a presentation. I can already, of course, tell you a little bit what I'm talking about. A second. I will, of course, talk about the green finance aspect of it. So I hope you can see the screen. So green finance for CPEC and beyond. So what we'll talk about very briefly, I will give you an introduction of what we do. So you also know that I'm not just talking from a very academic view, but also very much from a practical point of view and how we can shape also the green CPEC. I will show you a little bit of the trends. So it's a kind of our latest report that we just published at the beginning of this month about the investment and engagement trends. I pulled out the data for CPEC. And then of course, kind of what's interesting is kind of how can we accelerate it, and kind of how can we also think about the green finance aspect to work with the Chinese counterparts, and what are some of the trends that we are seeing in China regarding green finance. So very quickly, so I am a professor at Fudan University, which is one of the leading universities in China. I'm teaching finance there. I also am the director of the Green Finance and Development Center there, and I will introduce that in a second. And I have some other roles, also working with a number of financial institutions like the Asian Development Bank, the IFC, particularly in emerging economies. So I really hope to visit Pakistan soon again. I've been a couple of times in Pakistan, but it's been too long ago. The work that we do at the center, and that I think gives us kind of some legitimacy and also helps you understand where we are. So one of the focus areas is, of course, greening the BRI. So we work with the Chinese government, particularly with the Ministry of Ecology, Environment, the Belt and Road Green Development Coalition, Ministry of Commerce, the banking regulator, on how can we accelerate finance? What are some of the issues in terms of greening the Belt and Road? In green innovation finance, it's absolutely exciting. There's so much green innovation going on. The question, how do we finance it for energy, for transport, for food, all of the areas where we need to decarbonize. ESG Lab, very much focused on ESG risks for financial institutions. And Biodiversity Finance Lab, absolutely exciting too, because biodiversity is such an important topic to kind of integrate into our financial decision making. We know we want to protect biodiversity, but we often don't know how. What's the value of nature? How do we actually measure it? what are the data? So this is the work that we do at our center. Now, kind of, let's start a little bit kind of with the green finance status and trends for the BRI and CPEC. Here, kind of, since we heard so much praise about China, I included quickly a slide to kind of also remind us of the huge task that we have ahead. On the left side, you see the CO2 emissions of China. This is a publication that also came out just in February. And what we see is that China continues to increase its CO2 emissions. It's by far the largest emitter of global emissions. It has more than 30% of global emissions. So I think it's extremely important to understand that without China and China's domestic change, the climate change agenda is not possible. And at this time, we're not seeing kind of as strong of a decrease as we need to. And particularly over the last year and two, we're also seeing most likely CO2 emission increases. Now, that does not mean that China does not do a lot of renewable energy investments, but the expansion of coal is still visible, unfortunately. Now, there's a kind of, I think this is one of the reasons why we have the 30-60 targets in China in order to really try to get this down. We have to get this down, and China, of course, has a number of policies. The practice, I think, needs to accelerate to really reduce that. In the BRI, we have a similar issue that we have a lot of the investments over the past years that go into fossil fuels to increase CO2 emissions. But the idea is, of course, if we understand that there is financial risks involved in climate change, that we need to reduce these harmful investments. So on the right side, you see kind of different scenarios of the Belt and Road Initiative. And I think it shows that only the 2-degree scenario, the 2DS pathway, is very hard to achieve, even with the with currently best available technologies. So we need to do even more and hope that technology will allow us to drive down emissions relatively quickly. Now, here's President Xi, who kind of has been featured already quite often in our speeches here. He's, of course, extremely important to signal what is actually important for China. He signaled, of course, at the Belt and Road Forum how green development is important. He signaled at the Boao Forum last year, so the Boao Forum is going to take place soon again, how the International Green Development Coalition for the BRI and the Green Investment Principles for the BRI are core for understanding how do we shape the Green BRI in the future. So kind of giving support to these institutions and the BRI-GC and the GIP is extremely important as a signal to understand where do we need to go. He also highlighted the work of the BRI-GC again at the COP in Montreal on biodiversity. So kind of the work of the BRI-GC seems to be extremely important for international collaboration. So that's why I will also highlight some of the work that we do there. Now, kind of what we see in practice, here's from the latest report from February 2023, what are actually the investments in the BRI and the engagement. And we see that 2022 saw and 2021 were relatively stable despite the pandemic. It's of course not as grand as it was in 2018 and 2015 in terms of investment. Pakistan overall has been, since 2013, the most important partner for China in the Belt and Road Initiative. So the CPEC is cumulatively the most important corridor of the BRI. So that's kind of always very encouraging to see and very exciting. So here, what happens in Pakistan, most of the engagement between China and Pakistan, so in the CPEC, is of course in energy. So about 3/4 of the total engagement was in energy. There was some, the other important engagement is of course in transport. There are great projects that have been completed in Pakistan with in cooperation with China. And I think there is of course a lot more hope that more can be done, but there's always the challenge, of course, of how do we finance it. Other sectors that also play a small role is technology. Now, one of the really exciting things that we observed in 2022 is that there's a much stronger willingness of Chinese companies to invest abroad, also in high-tech sectors. So we saw in 2022 a much larger technology share and absolute investments in technologies than ever before. So there's definitely kind of a shift also in the BRI from kind of the traditional infrastructure to more manufacturing, to more high-tech stuff. So that's very, very encouraging, and we do hope that Pakistan can benefit from that as well. One of the important distinctions that we always have to draw, particularly also for Pakistan, and we draw that around the world, is China's engagement is kind of, we separate that between the construction engagement that is often kind of implemented by Chinese construction companies and often financed even by Chinese loans, but not in Chinese equity. So kind of the top one is the construction engagement in Pakistan. The bottom one is the actual investment. So where China puts in equity, where China puts in ownership, and therefore also takes more risk. And then we see kind of the construction investments are generally much higher, or the construction engagements in CPEC, and the investments tend to be lower. So the equity investments and have been very focused in the coal and the hydro sector. So more can be done, also ideally to attract Chinese investments, in fact, in the BRI and in CPEC. Now, kind of, how do we attract and kind of, I think this is the core of the conference, is the core of the work that all of us are really doing. Kind of, how can we attract more green investments, and kind of what is the status of green finance in China and in the BRI. And here, kind of, I want to give you a couple of really, really interesting developments that part of them we are really kind of contributing to, and some of them we are allowed to observe. Here you see a map of all of the different regulations that China, or many of the different regulations that China has provided over the last years that address overseas financing, overseas engagement. So kind of by all the different issues you have on the left side, the State Council, the NDRC, and I guess most of you kind of are familiar with these abbreviations. So NDRC is, of course, the National Development and Reform Commission, a very powerful economics ministry, the Commerce Ministry, the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Ecology and Environment. And they often provide these guidelines, guidances, opinions conjointly. And you see the different dots. And the dots mean kind of that previously, until 2018, China always said environment is kind of a very local decision. You can apply host country principles for getting approval to do this project. So if you are in a country that does not have very strong environmental laws locally, we're still okay. And in 2020, it started to change, and in 2022, it really changed, that China, ideally from a construction perspective and from a banking perspective, expects that international standards are applied in terms of environmental impact assessment and environmental management. The simple reason is that a lot, and IFC does that, the Equator Principal financial institutions do that. So it's an international practice in order to reduce the environmental risk, because we know that not every country, not every region has perfect environmental laws or the ability to manage those laws. And so the idea is we really want to reduce environmental risk, and therefore we apply international standards. And it's difficult. It's not easy, and kind of we're working with the Chinese financial institutions and developers, and it's extremely hard for them to actually understand kind of how to apply international standards. But the interest and the willingness is absolutely there in order to improve green and reduce the brown risks. And I mentioned to you before the BRIGC and the GIP because it's mentioned so strongly by President Xi. And the BRIGC, the Belt and Road Initiative Green Development Coalition, brought out this guidelines for greening the BRI and the baseline study. And it has 9 very clear recommendations and a traffic light system in order to make sure that developers and financial institutions address green. And this is kind of, in many ways, it should be the core of the thinking of financial institutions. So one important aspect is, and this is also now in the guidelines and the Chinese official guidelines, green overseas investment practices address all project phases. And this wasn't the case before. Kind of often we had a very small planning phase where we said, like, we want to be green. But green spans from the planning to the construction, to the operations, and to the decommissioning. And this is extremely important to reduce environmental risks and become more green. Have an exclusion list, have an environmental impact assessment, differentiated conditions. And this is very important, number 4, to kind of provide cheaper financing for green projects like green energy and more expensive financing for brown projects. Now, this ideally, of course, allows us to expand, for example, green energy in Pakistan and others at lower cost. So this is also then part of Sinosure, the insurance company, to provide better conditions for green projects in order to really accelerate those. And the green investment principles also have similar ideas. The green investment principles is kind of a private organization, and the green development guidance is from a government-led organization. And in some ways, we want to align them. So last year, together with partners at GIP, the BRIGC, I developed this report, Accelerating Green BRI Investments, to align GIP and the BRIGC. And what's important, kind of, and this is kind of something that I want you to also understand, China has a traffic light system with numerous projects that say this is green and this is not green. So a traffic light system really does this. We have a green project, we have red projects, and we have yellow projects. Don't do the red projects, do the green projects. China has published such a list. So we developed this together with the Chinese government and Chinese stakeholders where we evaluate all types of projects. So the idea is really accelerate green, decelerate brown. And we can kind of the guidelines that we developed also allow us to evaluate any type of project, even that is not on the list. So on the list, there are 38 of the most important projects, and particularly energy and transport, but there are many other projects that might be relevant. And so kind of the overall guidelines provide a specific processes how to evaluate projects, even if they're not part of the original traffic light taxonomy. So kind of in negotiations, it's important to understand there is a green list. Let's accelerate the use of green. This is a government-supported green list for the BRI. And I think I couldn't agree more with the previous speaker. Integrating local communities, kind of working with the local communities is extremely important. Not only kind of because it's the right thing to do, it's also from a financial perspective, it's extremely important. As a financial institution, it's what we want to do is to reduce risks. We want to reduce risks that anybody destroys our property, that anybody resists the development. So it's extremely important to include the local communities in the practices, in the development. That's why we do an environmental and social impact assessment. That it's not just a license from the government, but we actually do an environmental and social impact assessment on the ground in order to understand what are your potential grievances. And China has also worked on establishing a grievance mechanism that means kind of that local communities can address the financial institutions to say, like, here's a grievance, there's an agreement that we made and this is not held. And the grievance mechanism is a risk management mechanism. It's not something to complain, it's a risk management mechanism, because what we want to do is to reduce the risk early on. There is a risk. We don't want this to kind of boil up and become in the NGOs or in the media or even violent. So grievance mechanism is really to reduce risk early on to provide a buffer. So this is work that is also still ongoing. Differentiated management, I think here kind of I told you it's a core of the kind of green finance. How do we treat red, yellow, or green projects in terms of evaluation requirements at the beginning, in terms of environmental risk management requirements, in terms of financing requirements? So green, of course, always gets the best. That is the idea, and that's how we accelerate green. And of course, red gets the worst, very strict requirements in order to make it more difficult to implement red projects. Now, in the Green Development Guidance for BRI projects, that kind of the implementation guide, we also suggested a reduction plan for red projects and an acceleration plan for green projects. And so that means that by 2030, for example, all of the projects should be in the green or yellow project list, and none of them, even in the portfolio, should be in the project in the red light zone, so to say. So really a reduction of the red projects, not only in terms of financing, but also in terms of what is actually in the portfolio. So reduce the existing red projects. So this is also part of the Green Development Guidance that was published in the second phase. Now that could also mean, and that's I know that Pakistan has also been thinking about it together with the ADB and with the Asian Development Bank on the energy transition mechanism, on reducing coal-fired power plants, even existing ones. And I know it's an extremely complex, political, challenging topic, and there is no easy solution for this. But we have to understand that if we really want to address climate change, that we have to phase down emissions. So without phasing down emissions, we will not manage to kind of reduce the risk of climate change. So if we are serious about it, we have to also kind of reduce those installations, including coal-fired power plants, that provide too much of the CO2. So last year, together with our partners, we developed a coal phase out and coal retirement handbook. How do we finance this? And there is continuous work going on. It's again a very, very challenging topic, but very interesting. We saw the first successful financing of coal retirement last year in the Philippines. There are more in the pipeline. And one of the reasons is, of course, that the cost of operating coal-fired power plants with the very high volatility of coal prices is just more expensive than an alternative green investment. And so it's often might be financially feasible to do it. It's just a question of where do we finance it and how do we phase down in terms of energy planning, in terms of just transition, and of course, in terms of how do we finance it, what type of CapEx, capital expenditure do we need when, and how can we also pay out existing owners or phase them over to renewables. So there's a lot of different mechanisms depending who's the owner, what is the energy structure, and there's a lot of support that can be given through government channels. So in Pakistan also, what is kind of the barriers and the accelerators that we can use in the government, in the policy to accelerate early coal retirement. So there's a number of projects going on, and I'm also involved in some of them, including in Asia and also hopefully with the Pakistani partners. Yes, I can finish if you want.
Waiting, and if you want, I can give you some more time at the end of the session if you like.
That's perfectly fine. I'm mostly finished. Can also finish here because I think most of it is said. I think it's extremely important to understand that green is becoming more important, that Chinese government is kind of at least signaling a very strong willingness to engage in green, that it understands that risks are not environmental risks and economic risks are real, but also that it's very important what the local communities do, and that how Pakistan, of course, can also support, for example, the early retirement of coal plants. What is their willingness? So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Mustafa, wonderful to see you, and of course, wonderful to see everybody else. Wishing you all the best and for the rest of this conference.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Christoph, for a great presentation. And for the record, for everyone, Christoph and I discussed the greening CPEC about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago. And we said we must do something. And then Fudan University, Christoph, SDP and PCI initiated this great initiative. So thank you, Christoph, for adding so much value to the discussion as always. And now I would like to initiate the plenary session, which is called Mobilizing Green Finance for Renewable Energy Projects under CPEC, Lessons from China. And I would like to invite the keynote speaker for this session, Dr. Zhao Baiga, who is the Vice Chair of the 12th National People's Congress Foreign Affairs Committee and Chair of the Research and Development International, and very close partner of the Pakistan-China Institute. Over to you, Dr. Zhao.
Distinguished Mr. Mushahid Said and the dear guests, I'm glad to participate in this online exchange shortly after Spring Festival of China. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt congratulations on the success of this meeting, although we are gradually breaking away from the once-in-the-century pandemic. The opportunities and the challenges brought by the change using in the century is still complicated and intertwined. This meeting will discuss the ways to bring more prosperity and stability to the turbulent world. China and Pakistan are unique all-weather strategic cooperative partners. The Pakistan-China Institute, the organizer of this meeting, is an important platform for non-governmental exchange between China and Pakistan. It has become an active advocate of bilateral relations and an information pool for international studies, and plays an important role in many fields such as diplomacy, economy, trade, energy and environmental protection, and youth and women. It's my great honor to have been granted the Healer Eltiazi, the Pakistan Civil Award in 2020, and I'm willing to work with the Pakistan-China Institute to continue to gather wisdom and strength for promoting the sustainable economical and social development of the two countries. As the meeting first on the marching towards a green future experience from China, an epoch-making and the innovation theme, I would like to share our experience briefly in terms of the advocacy of the Chinese government and the practical of entrepreneurs and the role of the platform. Number one, the governmental determined the national strategy of the carbon peaking and the carbon neutrality for overall advancement. In September 2020, China clearly put forward the goal of achieving the carbon peaking in 2030 and the carbon neutrality in 2016. This means that China would realize a forced reduction of carbon emission with the highest density and the largest amplitude in the world, so as to achieve the consecutive leaps towards the carbon peaking and then carbon neutrality in the shortest time in the history. To this end, China has made scientific and orderly development. First of all, China officially released the working guidelines for carbon dioxide peaking and carbon neutrality in full and faithful implementation of the new development philosophy as a landmark strategic deployment. Secondly, the administrative Department of China works on the key industry sectors, typically energy, industry, transport, housing, and the urban rural development, and the agriculture, and the provider preferential support regarding the finance, education, system, scientific and technical innovation, statistics, and ecological environmental protection we call 1+N green development policy. Then the local city in China also took the positive action in rapid sequence and issued many policy documents related to the carbon peaking and carbon neutrality. Most of these policies will combine with the local resource endowment of a region. For example, in terms of PV generation, large-scale ground power plants are mostly developed in the West Gobi Desert in the northwest China, while distributed PV power plants are mainly deployed in the eastern China. The effectiveness of the policy and the initiatives is gradually emerging in the field of the construction, taking green buildings as the starting point. China has promoted the low carbon transformation in the construction process. Up to the first half of 2022, the proportion of the new green building in China exceed the 90%. In the field of transportation, intelligent transportation improved the driver efficiency and explosive growth was presented in the new energy vehicle industry. By the end of 2022, the new energy vehicle population in China reached to the 13.1 million in the field of the community. The awareness of the green life has been highlighted or improved, and the waste material recycling system has been gradually established. In the first half of 2022, the value of China second-hand trading marketing exceeding the trillions. So the next parts, I want to talk about enterprises shoulder the social responsibility to accelerate the green transportation. Chinese enterprises do not take carbon peaking and carbon neutrality as a pressure, but also the opportunities. Please, not only the pressure, but also the opportunities, because this means the change of the industry. First, they seize the opportunity to develop the strategic energy industry to be in line with the goal of the carbon peaking and the carbon neutrality. The carbon emission per meter of GDP should be reduced. Therefore, it is bound for China to accelerate the development of the next generation strategic energy industry, such as the information technology, biotechnology, the new energy, new material, high-end equipment, new energy vehicles, green and environmental protection, the aerospace and the marine equipment. They vigorously develop the clean energy such as the wind energy, solar energy, biomass energy, ocean energy, and the geothermal energy. These emerging industries and the new energy will widely apply emerging technologies such as internet, big data, AI, and 5G. Enterprises developing such technology will become the new industry forces in future economical development. And secondly, Chinese enterprises have seized the opportunity, to carry out the green technology transformation by adopting the new technology, including the big data and the new communication model. Chinese enterprises have promoted the technology innovation and the digital transformation to improve the production efficiency and the competitiveness. Third, the Chinese enterprises have seized the opportunity to develop the carbon sink industry. Chinese enterprises were involved in the key ecological protection and restoration project. Grassland ecology protection and restoration, wetland protection, forestation, marine ecosystem protection, and restoration, etc. These efforts have led to larger forest area and greater carbon sequestration capacity of the ecological element, such as the mangroves and salt marshes, thus bring the new ecological benefits. I think the third point are quite important because I just want to talk a little bit about our organization, Research Development Institution, International Core, RDI. We're working very closely with PCI, which under the leadership of the Senator Mujahid. And for the past now nearly 8 years, we're doing a very good project, not only for Belt and Road Initiative, but especially for the integrated advanced technology resources to promote the sustainable development. Several things we are so interesting, I just want to mention here. And number one, I think PCI, this institute, bring a young generation the leadership, so many smart people and good company have the training in Tsinghua University in the 4 years ago. And I think that workshop, Mustafa play an important role because bring such smart people come to China, let them understand about China, the technology, and also the situation in our country. So we set up some collaboration practically and theoretically. Number two, the PCI, I think are quite important. They introduce some very good project in China to Pakistan. If I'm correct, we try very hard working with the Luba economical zone, not only bring the very good technology in Pakistan, but the most important thing, make those kind of technology let the Pakistan group play a very important role. And also the very good telecommunication system, I think PCI playing a very important role. And now we're still working quite closely with PCI regarding to the biotech project and about the agriculture project. But day by day, year by year, I guess those kind of activity will accumulate and promote the important development in two countries. And here I just want to mention two very interesting programs. In the future, I do want those projects like Haier and the Luba Economic Zone, because you are so successfully bring this program and make it successful. These two projects supported by RDI, because our institute not only give the suggestion to the government regarding to the Belt and Road Initiative, regarding to the sustainable development, but also we have the very good system, find a very good company, find very good experiences, and also help them to recommend it to the government, to the other countries, including especially Pakistan. Mustafa mentioned many times to me whether those kind of new technology can more quickly come to Pakistan. Mustafa, I think, of course. And today I saw a very old friend, like the ambassador, the former ambassador of China, Masood. Ms. Masood, do you remember the Karamein conference, which is fantastic, because not the politicians get together, but the business people come together. I think in the future, we need more work, even face-to-face, because people need to talk, people need to open the heart, introduce themselves. People should know each other, because this is so important. I just want to give two important projects in the future. I really want those programs can work in Pakistan. One project called Tianzhuang, eco binning plastic technology. This is a very interesting. This Tianzhuang is an RDI platform enterprise with the harmless degradation technology of the plastic. You know, all the white plastic give us the good vegetable, but give the very bad material for the fish and for the sea. It's really horrible if you look at the situation. But the Tianzhuang is working with the promotion of the RDI, the ecological plastic film produced by Tianzhuang covered how much? 66,000 ha of the farmland in Anhui province for 4 years now. And this project will very soon implement it in the whole country, I guess, which will play a very important role in reducing the pollution, improving the soil, and increasing the crop yield. And now South Korea and the other country now and the other Asian country want to working with us. I really think this is a very interesting project regarding to the plastic technology. So this is one thing I really want to speak out here. And in the future, we can working more closely together, especially for the big agriculture country in Pakistan, our brother. The second example I want to using as the how can I say the Gordon Company Limited. This is a very interesting company. Again, the RDI platform enterprises. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we have 450 enterprises like Tianzhuang and Golden Company. Those companies located in different fields. The buildings, the how can I say, the information system, 5G, the data collection system, analysis, agriculture, etc. So many things. This company, they using the technology such as like a beam, maybe people understand, and also SIEM, building and also city. The cloud computing, big data, lottery, mobile internet, and the AI to realize the digital online intelligent construction, construction involving the full process and all elements, which have gradually promoted energy conservation and efficiency improvement in the construction field. The very good thing is now this technology come to Italy and give the full training program in the University of Rome, which is fantastic. And of course, I think it's not near future. This technology will very soon implemented in China. I hope we can, or not we, go through the PCI system. I want that those kind of new technology, not only for the road, for the for the truck, and for this new technology, I hope one day can come to our brother country, Pakistan. So, dear Mushahid and Mustafa, we have a lot of work and very interesting work we can do. The RDI platform technology owners, enterprises, and experts are delighted to engage in international business through the intermediate of RDI, so that the technological achievement can benefit more countries and regions, especially for Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, the Belt and Road starting in 2014, for 2023, we may have very important events. I think we are not only talk about the achievement in the past 8 or nearly 10 years, but we have talked about the, how can I say, the progress of the future, especially when we face into the fourth industrial revolution. How can we help all the developing world, especially our brother country, Pakistan? We call maybe in the 2015, we are the Belt and Road 1.0. And in 2022, we will come like 2.5, maybe 3.0. Because Pakistan, you have a great people, so smart. You have a very strong young generation. You have a very responsible politician. You have a very good, how can I say, the international collaboration. Especially you have the young generation of the leadership. So I feel very happy in the future working with you as our old friend and a dear friend. I sincerely wish all parties and join hands to march towards a green, environmentally friendly, and sustainable world. May you achieve the innovative interaction and the common development. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhao Baige, and we really look forward to taking forward the ideas which you proposed and continuing the cooperation that was initiated 8 years ago. And now that China has opened up, we can pick up the momentum again. Now I would like to invite Mr. Dong Shenliang, who is the Group Chief Corporate and Investment Banking, Deputy Chief Financial Officer of the China Three Gorges Corporation, to make his remarks.
I just have to go somewhere. Senator Samra Zubairi Sahaba will preside the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dear respected chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today I'm honored to come here join this important meeting. First of all, I give the comments that this PPT report not academic report, only is my working contribution. Okay, this my topic have the five topic. First of all, the CDG and the CCL. I'm from the CDG, meanwhile the CCL. First, I introduce the CCL and the CDG. As now, I think I remember the CDG is the world most big. It's the biggest clearance productions company in the world. He in Pakistan, he to establish the CPEC and CPEC CDG focus on the hydropower development and operation, as well as on the development of new energy, wind and solar. Focus on the strategic goals of building world-class clean energy group. CDG group has been accelerating the pace of the going global activities, participating in the construction of the Belt and Road Initiative. And here, this is the main consolidation commitment to construction and realizing the shared future for the whole mankind. In order to the development of most important market, the CPEC project and CPEC and Pakistan market, Chinese Three Gorges established the Chinese Three Gorges South share, means CCL, in 2011 with the support of capital financing. CCL has achieved high quality and sustainable development of clean energy project in South Asia, especially in Pakistan. Now the two topics, I briefly introduce the development of CCL in Pakistan. Pakistan is located along with the Belt and Road and is an important strategic investment market of the CDG. CDG and Pakistan have a large port cable, and this there is a strong demand of the large scale infrastructure in order to attract the private investment. The Pakistan government has provided foreign company and financing institute with investment and fishing framework for the port project. First, I only give the briefly introduce. First, is the PPA, is the guarantees for the port purchaser demand for the electricity and the port generation right to obtain the stable cash in the future cash flow. The second is guarantee is the payment obligations of port purchase means CPPG and the PPA are the guarantees by the government of Pakistan in the implementation of the IA. For the Chinese fund enterprise and finance institute, the difficult faced by Pakistan for the industry and both challenges and opportunity. This is my another opinions during the 12 5-year plan. The CDG group conducted the planning research on the hydroponic resource of the Pakistan in industrial basis and detailed research on the new energy such as solar and wind farm. Now the in Pakistan development have the now the have the 6 project. Have the 3 project is the hydroponic. The other 3 project is wind farm in Karachi. Now I give the briefly introduce of hydroponic. One is I think the most of Pakistan people know the Karota project. His capacity is 321 megawatt. Meanwhile, the Kahala is under feedback study is 1,100 megawatt. And another project, project Mar is 640 megawatt near the near the Jalab River. Now the with the total installed capacity around 2,500 megawatt and the total investment of the over 6 billion USD. And the project community level is facilitated. Just now I have introduced the wind farmer and others Kahala, Karota and Mar project in the Chinese and Pakistan economic corridor. CPEC has successfully completed the project financing. This is the understanding of the project finance character. The first of all, I give the questions. Is that the finance activity carried out around a specific project, the project financing. In fact, project investment sponsor can obtain the project fund through the very combinations from the perspective of finance subject. It can be the project committee. That is the project committee is the borrower. He can be also be the project sponsor. That is the sponsor is the borrower. From the perspective of the finance collaborator, it can be the project owner assets and right and the equity, which is the common case where is the project company is a borrower. Now the understanding of the project finance character from the perspective of the finance participating, there can be only the borrower and the finance institution, which is a comment in the case where the sponsor is a borrower, or in the case where project company is better. There can be the finance institute, the government of country where the project is located, and its authorities agency and the Chinese export credit insurance center, and such as the commercial insurance company, project buildings, commercial bank, and operators such as. In addition, there is some other applications perspective where it's not related to us, but I will mention them here. In my opinions, our team opinions, finance around a specific project cannot be simply called project financing. It must include follow the characters. One is the borrower is only for the project. A special proposal committee established with the project and the main body can well define the right and obligations of all the parties in terms of legal relationship with a clear right and responsibility and a clear risk division. The two is the collect returns. The collect return is mainly assess a right and the interest of the project himself, not covered by the shareholder, which can be supplemented by the limited credit enhancement mission from the sponsor. 3. Debate repayment come from the cash flow generated by the project himself. The finance participating cannot be limited to borrow and finance institute, but must include the government of the country where the project is located, insurance company, contracting parties. CCL has implemented the above finance model in different and communicated follows finance experience. One is bring in the top international capital to create a new pattern of the strategic leading and integrations participations in hydropole. CCL has introduced the Silk Route fund and the IFC analyzed under the World Bank as a strategic investor. And quickly accumulated experience in international business and corporate governance, capitals, operation, and environment protection, and sustainability development. The transmission, the traditional conception of the unlimited resource financing and improve the efficiency of the investor sponsor resource allocation. 3. Flexibility in setting up the withdrawal conditions and matches and underlying key business documents. This is I give the recommends in the financing of the wind pro freeze 2 project in the Karachi, the wind farmer project. The sponsor investor, the project committee are the leading the bank cooperated in good fields in order to eliminate the risk of the recovery of pre-determined tariff. The lender bank flexible stated the withdrawal conditions take into the account the interest of all the parties, include the sponsor, the lender bank, and the government. Fully flagging the basic principle of mutual benefit and win-win situation. I think the fourth topic is the importance of project finance for the OBOR project. Yes, the fundamental principle of the one world, one road have the extensive consolidation, joint contribution, and shared benefits, which is obtains a strong vitality and lead to the susceptibles and here's the development of the one road, one road project. This is the government of the central government to promote it's one is the core business, two is the core construction. The three is the sharing. The four is the sensitively. Project finance itself is a process of the core business, core construction and shared, and it must be a process. It not only solve the problem of the funding, but more importantly, through the solutions of the funding, all the activities and the risk of the project construction and the operations are reasonable planned, and many participate in other introduced to undertake the corresponding work and management the relative risk and with their profession's capacity so achieve the mutual benefit and win-win result in the end. I think this is today's my all the share. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Insightful information. Now I would like to invite Mr. Farid Ahmed. Mr. Farid Ahmed is Group Chief Corporate and Investment Bank. Over to you, Mr. Farid, please.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible, and just wanted to thank you for giving me this opportunity today on behalf of Bank of Punjab to present our views on financing of renewable energy projects. I'm very sorry I couldn't be there in person because of a traveling conflict. But I'll try to present our views concisely and for the audience, and will be available for any question and answers as well. I would like to share some slides if you can give me sharing rights. So I have a short presentation that I would like to take you through, in which I will try to discuss some of the issues that are being faced in terms of project financing for renewable energy projects, our experience in financing renewable energy projects in Pakistan, and some of the key policy initiatives that have been lately taken, which provide opportunities for financial institutions, both Chinese banks, international financial institutions, as well as Pakistani banks to participate in this important cause. Okay, thank you. Screen, please. Okay, so Pakistan has immense renewable energy potential. Bestowed with the to the deserts of the province of Sindh, potential for solar energy. And it is estimated that the combined potential from all megawatt of renewable energy, including the solar corridor, the vast coastal belt that we have, and there has been a lot of policy initiative as well, and alternative energy development board was created to harness this potential. to increase the share of renewable electricity generation. And the target was that it should be 30% by 2030 from 5% currently. So a significant jump in renewable energy share in overall electricity production by the end of the year. The policy cooperative bidding structure to increase private participation, and it was envisaged that this structure will be more transparent and it also will help to reduce tariffs for end consumer. Unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, no project has yet been set up under this policy, although recently an RFP for a 600 megawatt solar power plant in Muzaffargarh has been approved. So we hope that this will be, breaking grounds for renewable energy projects under this policy, and hopefully more projects will be coming up soon. But it's worth looking at that why, despite this potential and policy initiatives, the utilization of renewable energy resources remains very low, and why there is an apathy from the investors and the project financiers to get into renewable energy scene in Pakistan. So I'll just talk about a few issues and constraints that are affecting the renewable energy projects in Pakistan. The first one being that unfortunately the number of financial institutions with long-term financing that is required for such projects, very few institutions have that kind of capability. As a result of that, we are seeing a few institutions participating, which results in a high concentration of it. Most of these banks are large private sector banks and DFIs, and their lending books are already exposed to the energy sector to a large extent. Due to this concentration, the banks are finding it difficult to find short of capital. They are finding it very difficult to meet their day-to-day working capital needs. And this situation is discouraging new financiers for coming into the scene. The investors and the renewable energy sector was also a big beneficiary of concessionary financing limits that were provided by the Central Bank of Pakistan. As you might well be aware, that the renewable energy loans were given at a very attractive rate previously. However, since late last year, that limit has been abolished, and no more concessionary funding is available for real estate projects. That funding had given a big impetus for RE projects in Pakistan, but unfortunately, with the reduction in that benefit, it's very difficult to find financing at commercial rates for these RE projects. Then the foreign currency crunch and restrictions on import of plant and machinery is also causing a major issue. A lot of projects are currently on hold because the plant and machinery, solar panels, turbines that are required for such projects, they have to be imported, and due to continued foreign exchange crunch, these imports are currently on the back burner. So it's very difficult to launch new projects and execute these financing at current point in time. And lastly, with the rise in interest rates and the overall inflationary impact in the last year or so, the cost of projects has gone up. The rupee devaluation has played a big role, and that has resulted in a lot of projects becoming non-feasible or commercially non-viable. So that has also hurt the project offtakes recently. And then we also had some policy-related issues where RE projects sometimes required, relocation of affected population. You need ownership rights, right of way, And those issues are also causing delays and problems in execution of the projects. So I've highlighted just a few, but hopefully that should give you a quick overview of the key challenges that are being faced by these projects in Pakistan. Now coming to the financial sector specifically and banks particularly, what the banks and the financial institutions have been doing to overcome some of these issues and how ready we are. As I mentioned earlier, that this space is currently dominated by a few banks in Pakistan. And we need to have more and more banks coming into this fray. So currently we have maybe 8 to 10 banks with long-term funding available that are able to provide financing for these projects. And hopefully with the passage of time and with the availability of more concessionary financing, we might see more and more banks coming into play. Banks have also been trying to tap foreign sources of funding. Green Climate Fund is one such initiative that is available. Currently, only one bank in Pakistan is accredited with the Green Climate Fund. Now, this Green Climate Fund was formed under the Paris Accord and has substantial allocation for renewable energy for developing countries, including Pakistan. We need more financial institutions to partner with this fund and similar initiatives like that, so that this financing is available for local projects. So I'm just glad to share that 2 more banks are in the pipeline to get accredited, including the Bank of Punjab. So with availability of this funding, we hope that some of the foreign currency and concessionary financing issues might be sorted once we tap into these pockets. Now, central banks and DFIs have developed green banking policies at the instigation of the central bank. But the implementation and monitoring of these policies, I would say, remains to be desired. There is need to have a dedicated green banking office in true form and spirit, so that a lot of these financings that is available can be unlocked. The certifications that is required and the implementation requirements for these financing, that can only be possible when we have proper implementation of green banking policies. So right now we have crossed the first hurdle, that we have a policy in place, but the implementation part remains to be desired. Now, when we look at the kind of opportunities that are present in the market, as I had mentioned, Pakistan has immense potential. And we have a lot of global financial funds that are also looking at Pakistan for renewable energy. And we need to act as a bridge to link these projects to these financing vehicles in order to unlock this potential. Bank of Punjab has been partnering with the Green Climate Fund and some other initiatives globally, but there is a need to further tap these resources, and perhaps the central bank, as well as the Pak China Institute type of intermediary bodies can also play a role in this area, because getting this foreign funding can resolve a lot of these issues in terms of kick-starting these projects, can circumventing the import restrictions that we are currently facing. On the local market side, the commercial banks should work on a new green financing products such as green bonds, which are globally now very successful. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, we haven't had any issues with that. But I do know that a couple of banks and financial institutions are currently working on these initiatives. And with the right kind of incentive and support from the regulators, this can open up a very big universe, a new universe of financing opportunities for Pakistan. And when we overlay this with a Sharia compliant structure, this will make our products even more attractive, both locally and internationally. So green bond is one area where the Pakistani banking system and other DFIs need to work seriously in order to harness these resources. Now, in terms of the policy initiatives and enablers that we continuously talk with the key stakeholders, but there is severe need for advocacy in these areas. I would like to just highlight a couple of them here. Firstly, the availability of wheeling and off-grid projects can be a huge booster. Now, currently, wheeling is very difficult to get approvals for wheeling projects, and the market for the free market for energy has not yet been developed. So wheeling guidelines, wheeling opportunities from NEPRA and other regulatory bodies will be a very welcome step, and that will help banks and investors to get into new projects without the risk of circular debt, because in wheeling you can sell directly to the final consumer. You can bypass discos and get direct access to cash flows. So that could be a huge development in the Pakistani financial sector and the energy sector if that were allowed and if that is successfully implemented. Secondly, the State Bank of Pakistan can also offer incentives. And these incentives do not have any cost. They do not have any rupee or dollar cost to it. Incentives like a lower risk weight on renewable energy exposures. So currently, when we take exposure to any renewable energy project, there is a charge on our capital that is levied by the central bank. If that charge is reduced as an incentive, that will allow us to finance more projects, and it will be a big incentive for the banks to finance renewable energy facilities. Similarly, carbon credits and RE credits, they are not very popular in Pakistan. Globally, it is a big industry. So it is suggested that SECP and PSX can probably work on renewable energy credits and create a market for it. This could have a huge impact on reducing the cost of funding, reducing the cost of products, and provide a major incentive for both financiers as well as entrepreneurs to get into this market. Lastly, there should be a body of financial incentives like tax credits for investment in renewable energy products. Traditionally, whenever you want to develop a new market, especially for a noble cause like renewable energy, there has to be some support from regulatory bodies and government in order to kickstart that process. So some sort of tax credit or lower tax impact on green bonds or renewable energy financing can help attract more investors and reduce the cost of these incentives. So these are some of the suggestions that we hope that through this platform might be sent to the key stakeholders for promotion of renewable energy financing in Pakistan. Thank you so much for your time, and I remain available for any questions that you may have on this matter. Over to you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farid Khan sir from Bank of Punjab for tabling the financial aspects of renewable energy and what are the constraints and opportunities. Next, with the permission of Sessions Chair, I would like to invite Mr. Ayub Saab to present the technical aspects. Mr. Ayub is the former Deputy Managing Director of National Transmission and Dispatch Company of Pakistan. Over to you, Mr. Ayub Saab.
Thank you. Distinguished guests and Senator, respected senators, and all my respectable members, Assalamu alaikum. I am the ex-Deputy MD NTDC, National Transmission and Dispatch Company, and also remain as MD of the company for some time. You see that renewable energy is a big challenge for also the biggest company of Pakistan, that is National Transmission and Dispatch Company. We have a lot of CPAP projects in pipeline, and we have to adopt all these green energy policies on these projects. So first of all, what we have done that we have prepared an IGSAP plan, integrated generation expansion plan for the next 10 years. And this has already approved by NEPRA. In this plan, when you will see that we have make a lot of energy mix shape change. And this is all the focus on the renewable energy. And on renewable energy, first of all, we were considering only this wind and solar. But afterward, the hydel project is also included as per internationally adopted policy. So now our renewable policy is from solar, wind, and hydels. So as per the government policy that we have to inject at least 30% of renewable energy in our system up to 2030. So by adopting this one, we have prepared our IGSF plan. And in IGSF plan, what we have done that we have reduced our RFO, the most costly fuel which we are using from 2022. We are using it about 19%, and then in 2025, it will be reduced up to 7%. And up to 2030, we will almost try to not use this RFO in our system, and it will be not more than 2% of the system. Whereas we have already a shortage of hydel power plants, we have a shortage of waters. The shape is changing, so we have to focus on these projects also. And what we have done that at present, we are using our hydel projects generation is about 28%. And up to 2030, we will make it up to, inshallah, 39%. So this will be a great energy mix change in our generation, which will not only improve our green energy policy, but it will also give a zero carbon policy, which is which we are focusing on it. The solar, the big potential in Pakistan is a solar, and as per IGSF plan, it is almost about 1% at this time, and we are not going to increase it from up to 2025 8%, and then it will be up to 2030 it will be more than 13%. And as a pilot project, we have, as already my friend told, that in Muzaffargarh, one of the solar power plant about 600 megawatt is already under bidding process, and it will be going to be matured shortly. And then we have taken the land in Muzaffargarh so that we should plan and install at least about 3,000 megawatt of solar panels there to put it in our green energy in our system. Whereas for wind, we have unfortunately very short corridor available in south area, in Jampir area. So where we have already have a 4% of plants, and we are going to increase it from 4 to 8%. And in 2025, up to 2030, it will be 8% in our system. And another aspect of carbon is RNG plants. So the gas plants, we are also trying to reduce that gas plant. And at present, we are using it about 17%, and we are going to reduce it to 14% in 2025, and up to 2030, it will be remain at 6% of the system. So coming on the CPEC projects, you see that our Chinese friends, they are helping us a lot in this by giving a green energy into our system. And you see that we have already a very good project completed recently, that is 660 kV HVDC transmission line, where we will transferring our power from 4,000 megawatt from south to north. And by adopting this HVDC line, not only we have reduced our losses, which is about 2.8%, whereas if we use this energy to be transferred through our AC system, then our losses will be more than 7 to 8%. So this is also a good plan for our NTDC to reduce the losses and also to improve the green energy policy of the system. So a lot of projects are under construction now. That is Dasu, one of them is Dasu, Suki, Kanari, Krot is already completed. and Kohala. So all these projects, what we are doing, that we are making that in our all project, we should have a PC. And in PC, we are making that plan that all the area which is not utilized in the project, that should be cultivated through a green trees plants. So we are we have a very good plan for this one, that if we planted good trees in our system, that will also give us a very good environmental change in our system. So what's the solar energies? Now this is the big issues for our country, that if we are going to install these solar plants and solar panel in our system, that will give you reduce the tariff of our system. But the problem is that when all these panels we are now getting from importing, and for importing we need the dollars, and dollars is very shortage, as you know, that this is the big issue for our country. So what I will request to Chinese, our friend, that they should install some factories here for local manufacturing by their license. And this will not only give a boost in our system to install these solar panels on top roof panel or solar utility panels, and that should be off grid. If we will use this one as an off grid, that will not only give a good solution for overcoming our demand, but also give you a cheaper energy of the system. Secondly, what I think that we should have, all the stakeholders should have a campaign through media or even from the education institutions, that this is a big challenge for us. We are getting energy in a very high rate because of our energy mix issues. So if we are going to install these solar panels in off-grid stations and using other resources in our system, which are very cheaper one, I have already published a paper which is already approved by a International Energy Science and Department, that why we are not using our sewage sludge. Sewage sludge is a very good source of energy, and from this we can make a electron exchange membrane fuel cell, which is like a hydrogen cell. And in the coming technology, like for the electrical vehicles, they can be used, and they can also use through a hydrogen turbine for the electricity of a small area, small and medium area. And other technologies are also that the coal ignification, underground coal ignifications with the combined solar concentrated technology. So these are the technologies which are using in the world, and those countries are using this one, which I don't think they have needed, but they are using. And our country, which is a dire need of this one, is not considering these technologies to be adopted to give a cheaper energy to our system. So I think we should arrange such type of seminar frequently, and then through media and other resources, even institutions, we should improve this one so that we can control our increasing tariff of the system. And I think this is a good step for the country, that we are now doing all this with our Chinese friends, which is an example for us that how they have adopting this zero carbon technology and using in their country. So following this one, we are on it, and inshallah NTDC is doing it in a very well manner. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayub Sahab. You have mentioned alternatives in the form of sewage sludge and the underground coal combustion. And you have also mentioned that what are different macroeconomic hurdles and constraints in the process of Pakistan's renewable energy transition. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Sajid Amin Javed. Dr. Sajid is the Deputy Executive Director at Sustainable Development Policy Institute. He is the macroeconomic specialist. Over to you, sir.
Short time for session, but I find this is the most important actually. To say more. Stay on this financing landscape in Pakistan. We've seen in some of the representations that we are financing so far. Does we still don't know what is some framework studies was it must have been its own framework. Proceed from one's spend. The State Bank of Pakistan is working separately from Mississippi. And SX is working from all the different scenarios. One thing that I think, if I can just the next 5 minutes, that is that green financing still in Pakistan is a residual policy. It's not a mainstream financial or mainstream economic policy. First and foremost, at a strategic level, we have to make green financing our main financial policy, our main economic policy, otherwise it will be a residual. Celebrating so the separation between environment and economic seems to change. As a separate policy, as a sub-part of policies, and again as a residual policy, we need to go for this. I think we have to set the number right. And we are speaking of green financing or green investments, we are more on the right side. But this climate change is a risk. Children, so please investment in the way. And that's why means equality of those things. And what is the risk? And what is the return? The return is higher than risk. It will bring the investment. Right now, the green financing discussion in Pakistan particularly is most clustered around the climate change as an existential threat. States is a higher risk. So, statement of Pakistan, particularly as statement of Pakistan. Discussion on Pakistan is clustered on financing. Discussions on these things start on the government. Pakistan. Fiscal space. Now, this is one positive thing as well. But energy is Pakistan's future.
Not environmental or energy policy. Because Pakistan's biggest shock will be global oil price shocks. Whenever there is a global oil price shock, Pakistan faces the most severe balance of payment crisis. So a transition towards green energy not only reduces the environmental hazards or the adversity, but more importantly, it creates more jobs. It reduces the $1 invested in green energy creates 8 jobs compared to 1 job created when $1 is invested in the fossil fuels. The last message, we are not ready because we are not thinking from an economic perspective. We are thinking from a moral and from a very long futuristic perspective. We have to work on de-risking this.
And participation of small investors. And that is where we are missing. I leave question answer session for you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sajid, for saying that green energy is the future of Pakistan and Pakistan's macroeconomic policy. Now I will open the house. If you have any questions for respected senators or guests, please.
Okay.
My name is Bauki, and actually the issues we are discussing here are very serious, but we have not implemented them. Just to let you know that in 1994, I brought the idea of solar energy from Germany to Pakistan. It took me 8 years to go to planning commission and then presented a see how to make solar energy popular in Pakistan, how to do net metering, how to do incentives. Unfortunately, we have inconsistent policies. That at that time, there was 10% duty on our solar panel. We made it 0%. And later on, with the changes of new government, new policies, we again put some GSTs and 17% GST and 10%. That's it. My question is why we are not able to set up factory with a Chinese friend in Pakistan since decades. We have Enercon here, we have the Energy Development Board. But despite a lot of meetings, believe me, nothing happened. The policy was actually made in 2002 for solar energy, and I was involved in that. And it took again 13 years. In 2015, actually the policy came out and we started giving incentives. My question is that why we have not produced any certified technician until now for solar energy? We don't have anyone, not a single certified technician. Why we have not used Chinese friends to train them? Why we have not put any factory until now? I know I think about 20 years ago, it got out of Pakistan to the factory in I-10. It never worked. All machinery was, I think, millions of dollars of work wasted. So instead of, I think, talking, we should implement the things. We should get Chinese friends on board. We have a Chinese friend sitting here. We should first of all make a constant policy. We should facilitate our Chinese friends. One window operation. I think Mr. Daud is also here. I know him since years. That they still have to go at least, as far as I know, 38 or 40 different institutes or government departments to get approval. So I think we should have one window operation for Chinese, ask them to put a factory in it, in Pakistan, in different places. And secondly, we should have technicians trained by Chinese or whoever can train it in Pakistan. And we should give incentive to the public to install the off-grid or on-grid system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very good question. Very good, not questions, suggestions, and we have noted it down. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. A very good presentation by the, I think the panel and our Chinese friend in China. We are all talking about the niche technology which is coming and how to absorb it and then sell and market it. There is one link which is very vital and missing. Where is academics? Where is the academia? One of my friends just mentioned that there is no trained technician to handle this technology. So when we are getting the technology, it has to be absorbed. Then it has to be marketed. Then it has to be sustained. How to sustain it? You need academia. You need people who can train them, who can understand them, and you have to identify those engineering institutions which can provide you that help. In all the discussion which we have taken or we have been hearing, is talking about the finances, is talking about the very high-end technology which is coming to Pakistan or should come to Pakistan and be manufactured in Pakistan. But the people who have to manufacture, are they capable to manufacture? Are they trained? Are they requisitely equipped academically or in the field? We need to see it in all-encompassing manner in which we need to identify where the technology centers can be established, which can be linked with the Chinese partners there in China, where they have a platform available or to train the HR, to have a linkage with the academia, a place where they can interact with the local industry as well. So the technology centers, I represent Bahria University. We are establishing it in Karachi. And we have a presence in Islamabad. We need to engage those institutions which can be a linchpin between the Chinese, Pakistanis, and the industrial hub in Karachi or in Islam. This is just my observation which I am sharing.
Thank you very much. You have rightly pointed out, when I was doing the Prime Minister's solar program, visited China a number of times. And whenever you go for buying a product or talking to them, they, for technical questions, they would take us to a university where some expert is, they would help. So that is the right model, in fact, support model. Thank you.
I would like to add that next session is on the prospects of solar PVs manufacturing in Pakistan and the role of SEZs. So, sir, kindly stay for that session. Any other question, please?
That's the matter.
Thank you very much. I would like to say this, that ma'am, you told us about that. There are a lot of engineers and there are a lot of people, technical people who have been working in different departments in different institutions. And they are very capable of doing that. But, when you go to the top hierarchy, like grade 19, 20, 21, 22, they are normal bureaucrats and they are not specifically trained in that subject, in that relevant, discipline. So what I want to say is this, that whenever we talk about clean energy, we talk about lessons to be learned. We all know what to do. We all know what the challenges are. We have these think tanks, we have these institutions, we have the examples to be learned from, like China, like any other country. But when it comes to execution, we always fail in doing what should be done. So what my observation is, what my suggestion is this, that we have a lot of this bureaucratic setup that is so slow and that is so not only for its own self, but also for the state. It is so huge and it is so overbearing and it is so irrelevant and incompetent that it slows the whole system down. I mean, if a project has to be implemented, if a project has to be done in the right time for the future of the people or the country, it can be done, because this is not something that is impossible. But the problem is that the people who are sitting there, they lack that will, maybe they lack that vision, maybe they lack that enthusiasm to carry out that project. So we need to work a lot, as honorable gentleman here said, that there are a lot of things that, at institutional level, we need to make a lot of changes to implement these changes or these projects for the future. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Let me correct my statement. I said that engineers are not available at the policy level for the engineering projects. Bureaucracy is doing a wonderful job. Only problem is that we have to give them a conducive environment. Multiple channels for decision making delay the project. It's not bureaucrat or technical people. It's basically multiple. Now, if you see any project, that is the problem. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I hope. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is Sameer Ali Khan. I'm a researcher at the Center for Aerospace and Security Studies. My question is related to adoption of nuclear energy. If the Chinese fellows could comment on this. Last year, the European Union added nuclear energy to the list of clean energy sources, promising incentives for financing. So Pakistan has an elaborate nuclear cooperation program with China. So do we see that future projects would be financed under similar incentivized programs?
We do have a couple of energy generation units also based on nuclear energy in Pakistan. Unfortunately, we were restricted for a long time, even though having the nuclear capability. Yes, it's a positive move that we are into. This is now entered into the clean energy program, and hopefully we use it beyond the health use of it and in testing and all that. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Engineer Wasim Abbasi. My question to Dr. Sajjad. Dr. Sajjad talked about private-led green financing. So if we analyze the previous policies of the government, for example, 2013 to 18, where CPEC was on the top agenda of the government, at that time, the main financing which comes from China in the energy sector was in the thermal sector, coal technology. So it means our government policy was on the wrong side. They have never convinced Chinese to finance in green energy sector, solar energy, hydro sector, and wind energy. So do you not think that the main player who can direct the foreign investor in the right direction, they are confused. They have wrong policy direction. So how can private sector correct this course of action?
Exactly. This is what actually I said, that we need to be clear on our policy directions. But I think one thing that we need to understand is sometimes our ideal solutions, sometimes are feasible and doable solutions. Like if you see in the Ukraine war, the world is again reversing back to coal. So when I think we were discussing on CPEC and these things, we were going through a very immense and very deep-rooted 18 hours load shedding. So first and foremost, priority was just to get something in the lines, the wire lines to. But I think it's after 2015, actually, when green energy is really picking. Even if you see the China, 2013-14, it doesn't have much on green bonds. It was just a very nascent stage, but then it has exponentially growth. So I think this is the time now that we need to understand. And this also goes to the question of bureaucracy to some extent. Bureaucracies are implementers, actually. If you don't have a very clear policy direction, guidelines, and clarity on the vision where you have to go and how you have to go, it adds to confusions of bureaucracy, but no defense to bureaucracy. Thank you.
I'm from Ambassador Magazine, Rajesh Tyag. My name is Rajesh Tyag. Is there any time frame for completion of these projects? All stakeholders should be ensured. This is very important issues.
On which projects, please?
Yes, definitely. All project has a time frame, but you say that in Pakistan we have a certain issues. Sometimes we have a financial issue, sometimes we have a equipment issues, and so many other issues. And you see that all the discussion which we have done, what I think that the engineers should come forward. Engineers should have frequent interactions. And whenever there is some policy it should be frequently discussed. All the positive and negative points should be discussed, and then it should be decided to implement. But I have faced in a 37 years experience that engineers should only ask to implement that policy. And when you are started to implement that one, you see a lot of problem on this one. And at that time, you cannot do anything. I will give you an example of such a simple one, that when you have planned to have coal plants, why not the policy should be discussed that we have an ample quantity of coal available, indigenous coal in our country is available. So at that time, if they were decided that the plant should be designed in such a way that it should also be utilized for a local coal. Now, when we have ample coal available, we are asking them to utilize that when they said that our design is not like this one, and your policy is not saying this one, that you can use that indigenous coal.
So similarly, others are so many, what I say, policies in which engineers are completely ignored. You know that Pakistan Engineering Council has a record that engineers, only one engineer has been promoted in 22 grades till now. What's the policy we will do? Engineers are the cream of the nation. They are doing all these things, but they are not being implemented. They are not being involved in the policies. This is the actual problem, what I think so.
Thank you so much. What he's trying to say is that for engineering jobs, engineers should be there for others. Okay, what about, you had raised the question of the nuclear and you said coal, why we went for coal, okay? In the energy pie, in most countries, coal takes 30 to 40% of the total. We started late, unfortunately. Third should have been there in 2002 for a negotiation. We lost, and we lost for a couple of cents while negotiating. And we delayed this project, and now we delayed it for another 15, 17 years, and now we have coal plants. So we have to go for actual use it, seeing how can we save our environment, how can we make the, the effect least dangerous, damaging on us, but we have to use it instead of going for fossil or imported coal. Thank you very much. I hope we have all the questions answered, so we can.
Thank you so much, everybody. I think lunch has been served. Let's take the Q&A session to lunch as well. So thank you so much.
Very good. I think very good. Congratulations.